Those things. Teddy, always appreciate a few minutes of your time. Let's start with Southern Miss. They lose the game in Hattiesburg last night to Ole Miss 4-1. RPI falls to 26. Last week, after they lost the series at UAB, you still had them as a national seed. This week, you've got them as the 12 seed hosting in Hattiesburg. How much does last night mean in terms of Southern Miss's ability to host? Do they still kind of control their own destiny in your mind?
It didn't do anything good, but I think that precipitous drop in RPI was shocking. I didn't really see that as being the likely outcome of a loss to Ole Miss, even at home. But if you look underneath a little further, the numbers suggest that if they just take care of business the next 2 weekends, they can make that ground back up. So, yes, I do generally think that they control their own destiny here. They still can win Conference USA. That would still look really good to the committee. I think the bigger problem is now we're talking about a team that's lost like 5 of its last 7 games or something. And how much do you trust that they do finish the next 3 weeks on the kind of level that they need to make up that, or to win these next 2 series and then to play well in the Conference USA tournament.
Well, and that's where I was going to go next, because Southern Miss had an unbelievable month of April. They went 27 days without losing a game. I think only lost 1 game or maybe it was 3 games in April, and 2 of them were like on the last 2 days of April. Had a really, really good month, but to your point, losing 5 of the last 7. And this has coincided with Reese Ewing being hurt, being out of the lineup. They certainly hope to get him back. So when you look at Southern Miss from a bigger picture standpoint, what's your level of concern in terms of them getting back to the way they were playing as recent as 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it's a real concern. The teams that they've lost to are solid teams, but the teams that they're playing next are also quite good as well. UTSA has been in the mix there at the top of the conference for much of the season, and Middle Tennessee State has a series win against Auburn and against La Tech. So, we know what they're capable of. And so these just are not easy games. And I think if you're not operating at your best, these are teams that can beat you. So, it's not like Southern Miss has been far off in any of these games. They've been competitive. They just haven't been able to quite get it over the line. So, I think it's possible they can, but I also, it's hard to feel very confident given what the last 2 weeks have been like for them.
So on the other side of the field last night was Ole Miss, who has now won 4 straight games. They sweep Missouri at home this weekend. That, frankly, didn't do a whole lot for them in the RPI, maybe moved up a couple of spots. They had a pretty good jump last night, and now Ole Miss finds itself in the mid to upper 40s with 7 games left on the schedule. 3 against LSU, 3 against Texas A&M. Sandwiched between that, Arkansas State. Let me first ask you a question that some of our texters on the C Spire text line are disagreeing with us about out of principle. If you are Mike Bianco, do you pick up the phone and call Tommy Raffo and say, Tommy, I'm sorry, we're not coming to Jonesboro next Tuesday night. We'll try to make it right somewhere down the line? Because that game with Arkansas State in the 220s in the RPI, win or lose, is going to hurt them.
Yeah, I would not be afraid of making that call. I think everyone would understand that. I think Jim Schlossnagle came out and was pretty open about why he canceled a game recently. So, you've seen that. But this time of year, you look around, you see game cancellations all the time, and it's not too hard to figure out why they're happening. Virginia canceled recently. Notre Dame canceled the whole weekend. Things happen. However, I think Ole Miss's bigger issue here is winning SEC games and not RPI. So if, for whatever reason, they think that going to Arkansas State would help them in pursuit of SEC wins for whatever reason, I'm not quite sure what that reason would be, but I find that to be the bigger issue with their resume moving forward, not the RPI. Going to play LSU 3 times on the road this weekend is going to get that number. If you win those games, which you need to be doing, otherwise this is a non-issue. Their RPI is going to move up in a pretty big way this coming weekend.
All right, so Ole Miss sitting at 10-14 in the league. Most people point to 14 as the needed number of SEC games. or need a number of SEC wins. I will ask you this, and I feel like I've kind of heard people talk out of both sides of their mouth. Ole Miss beat Mississippi State in the Governor's Cup game down in Pearl a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, whenever it was. Is the committee going to look at that as an SEC game, and should we be looking at Ole Miss as having 11 SEC wins right now instead of 10, even though it doesn't technically factor into conference standings?
Officially, no, but I can't tell you that they won't, be aware of that. They're only going to look at the official conference games and the SEC tournament officially, but at the same time, everyone knows that's an SEC opponent that you played. So I don't think they'll look at it, but it's not going to, be officially factored into their team sheets. So yes, there are 10 now.
Because I've heard
14 is generally where you should be looking, but Ole Miss's RPI is not such that they're going to get a whole lot of the benefit of the doubt. Their strength of schedule is pretty good. Like I said, though, if they win these games, if they beat A&M, if they beat LSU, the RPI probably will fix itself. So yes, probably 14 is what we're looking at here.
So you think they need to go 4-2 in their final 6 SEC games to be in there? Let me ask you this: outside,
the tournament does count though. So
that's what I was going to ask.
If they didn't get these 4, winning on Tuesday in Hoover becomes a must. But that is another way to pick up wins, is to go win them in Hoover.
Okay. And that's exactly what I was going to ask next. Let's say they go 3-3 in some combination over the final 2 weekends. If they were to win on Tuesday and then maybe win 1 and lose 2, or win 2 and lose 2, whatever it is in the SEC tournament, is that then enough potentially?
I think it probably would be. So at that point, if they win 3, win on Tuesday, you're at 14 and 16, and then if you just win 1 more, I would say probably get to 15 SEC wins. I'd have to see what the RPI would be at that point, but you at that point would have put yourself in a pretty decent position, I would think.
Busy with Teddy Cahill from Baseball America. We've kind of stopped talking about Mississippi State after the weekend that they just had. Is there any route for Mississippi State to the NCAA tournament at this point outside of winning the SEC tournament?
I don't think so. I thought last weekend, if they'd won that series, they still had a reasonable path. But if they went out and swept these 2 series, I mean, they're right there. But in terms of realistic, you're not going to expect to sweep Tennessee, even if Tennessee isn't playing for a whole lot that last weekend. So in terms of realistic routes, I don't think so. But if they beat Tennessee in a series, a lot of things change. Things changed for Kentucky in a hurry because they won that series against Tennessee. So, things can happen in this conference quickly.
Who's most interesting to you right now? Of the teams that are in the SEC that maybe you're kind of eyeing the postseason or going to be in the postseason, who's the team that you're looking at? You're like, I can't wait to see how the next 2 weeks and then the first 2 weeks of June go for this team.
In the SEC?
Yeah.
Well, I find what Georgia is and Vanderbilt are doing to be pretty fascinating. They don't have a whole lot of, marquee series wins, but I think the teams are both pretty talented if they're playing right. And especially Vanderbilt right now, their RPI has been outstanding all season long. There's a clear path to them hosting, and they play pretty well in Nashville, and they have an exciting pitching staff that you would think would match up pretty well in the postseason. But, was what happened last week at Georgia either an aberration or more of because Georgia's not playing well right now, or was that kind of an indication that Vanderbilt might be finding itself? So I'm pretty interested in what's going on there in Nashville.
That's fascinating stuff. Is Florida poised to make a run also? Did you see enough from them against Mississippi State last weekend that goes, okay, this is a team that's kind of finally figuring it out?
I think they might be. Now, it's strange that would happen after Hunter Barco gets injured, and that was one of the things that I liked most about this team is, Hunter Barco had as much experience starting as anyone in the SEC coming into the season, and he was pretty good early in the year, and now he's hurt. But it's still a really talented team. that offense, Sterling Thompson and Judd Fabian especially, can make things happen in a big way, in a hurry for them. And I think that they could certainly sneak up on a team that isn't expecting it. I mean, it's hard to say that Florida would be sneaking up on anyone, but they have a chance now to build some real momentum. The schedule sets up pretty well for them, and they could build up a pretty significant head of steam going into June.
All right, we're going to see how it all plays out. 2 weeks left in the regular season.